Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Bodied, the CLOUD9 fan cast. I'm Havokpus, and I'm joined by Frozen. Hello,
Hey,
Frozen.
hey, what's up? Um, Sorry about last week. That was totally my fault.
We had
Um,
scheduling issues.
it was my fault. But I guess on the good side, we are approaching episode 100.
So
So I guess that's
exciting.
something that we can talk about. We haven't talked too much to celebrate it behind the scenes, but what I guess what personally, like I'm personally like super excited that we've almost hit that benchmark, and I would like to thank you on stream and in the podcast for being here literally every step of the way.
Oh yeah, no problem. I have a lot of fun doing this. So even even if not a lot of people listen, it's still fun to do. So I don't mind.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. Here's to 100 more.
Yes, hooray. Well, let's get through a few things first. Doobie doobie doo. Hysteria was I think he was doing more stuff with the SummerSlam. I can't remember what he did, but I think he placed again and got some more money. But no one really wants to hear about that. Rocket League, they completely destroyed G2 and NRG at the rival esports GG Summer Open, and they got first place. A pretty expected victory from Rocket League. So there's nothing really to talk about, I guess. Um,
That's really fucking hype though.
yeah, it's the Rocket League is they rarely disappoint, and you know they're still one of the best teams in North America. So it's great to see that they're continuing, just showing that they're good, and they can take on teams like NRG and G2 and do good. So
But
yeah,
yeah, they really disappoint. But if they disappoint, it's normally against G2. So to see them come out and beat them is pretty hype.
they've beaten them the past couple of times. It's a really interesting rivalry because G2 is another really good team. So whenever we beat G2, it feels especially good.
Yeah, I could probably say that about any esport, especially Rocket League and CS:GO.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, there's not a lot to talk about for that. Moving on to some sad news, it seems that longtime manager and dedicated employee of Cloud9, Dannon, he has decided to step away from Cloud9, and I think he wants to do more stuff on his own. Maybe you know maybe go on to work with other people or something. It was a very mutual thing. It wasn't like he was upset with anything. I think he just wanted to have a change of scenery, maybe try to do some stuff on his own rather than having to work sort of under an organization or something maybe. But he's leaving, and it's very sad because he's been a really big part of the Cloud9 organization for a while. He's been really important with managing the players and making sure that everything is taken care of for them, making sure that everyone's comfortable, making sure everything is kind of working in order. So without him kind of behind the scenes, we wouldn't be able to have a lot of stuff happen. And it's kind of sad. I was really sad when he left, but I hope that whatever happens with him next, he he had success and he's happy doing what he does.
Yeah, I think it kind of came as somewhat of a surprise. Um, he has been such a staple for so long that it was almost like a reassurance that he would be there to ar- right anything that was wrong behind the scenes. So obviously, best of luck, and I hope to see more in the future.
Yeah, I
Even
felt
if
the
it's
same way
not with
too.
Cloud9.
Yeah, I felt that he was always going to be there until the bitter end of one day, hopefully not any day, but if ever C9 was to ever sort of close up shop, that he would be there right until the end. But like I said, it was a mutual leaving. Everyone was on happy terms. He said he had nothing negative to say. Jack and everyone else had nothing negative to say. So it wasn't like there was problems. I think he just wanted to kind of move on to something else. So yeah, unfortunate but understandable. The next piece of sad news is kind of also something that comes out of left field. It seems that Coach Chang, one of our coaches for the London Spitfire, has also left. And I'm actually really curious as to why, because there wasn't really an explanation. I think, at least the prevailing theory, is that he got an offer from either one of the other existing teams or uh, presumably one of the expansion teams. You have Atlanta, Paris, uh, Gyeongju, and I think there are also rumors of adding like Toronto as well as like Berlin and I think maybe another European one because I think they want to have like 4 European ones for season 2. But yeah, it's kind of a shock considering they put all that work into getting London the championship, and so I assumed that everything would be fine for London, and the only thing that would happen is it would be just bringing on new additions to kind of fill out like specialty gaps and maybe have some redundancy in the roster just in case someone does get hurt or is sick. But it's kind of strange that he would leave.
Yeah, it felt kind of weird to see him leave. I guess we don't totally know everything behind the scenes of what's going on, but it seemed that he was probably an integral part to how we actually performed towards the end of the season. I have faith in the organization to find a good replacement, though.
Yeah, I think that if we do end up getting another coach to have like 3 coaches again, I'm sure they'll find someone that's very capable. Um, hopefully, he at least finds a good team and can coach. I think that you're able to turn London Spitfire around from where they were looking at the end of stage 4, and they were looking super rough, to looking like a completely different team, and then just completely sweeping playoffs and winning the championship. You're going to be pretty desirable. So it is what it is. I mean, that's just sports, right? I think that's just what happens. End of the season comes, you win a championship. Other teams are going to want to hire you, and sometimes the offer is just too great to pass up. That's just what happens. It's not like an issue with like Stewie or contracts where they like just sign like a multi-year commitment and then go, oh, by the way, this other team is offering me more money or something. I'm going to go with them instead, and then just completely derails any plans that your team has. This is off season. This is a time where everyone's kind of open season on each other, and if better offers come along, especially after past successes, that's just kind of what happens. And I think that's kind of understandable.
Yeah, and especially if it's something that might be like a step up, then I think it's something that's good, probably really good for him and good for his career. So all we can do is hope for the best, except when he's playing us.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
Obviously.
hope I hope with whatever team he goes to, whoever we play, we absolutely crush it.
Yep, that's all I ask.
Also, just a little bit of news before we move on to League of Legends. Did you hear that Fisher was officially announced as Seoul's new tank player? Seoul Dynasty has signed Fisher.
I actually missed that.
It makes perfect sense considering Seoul has struggled in the tank area, and Fisher was benched like right before playoffs for almost no reason.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's sad to see that he's going to like a really big rival and all, but I'm glad that he's staying in the scene because he's obviously a very capable tank player.
Yeah, he's one of the top tank players. I think like top him and Jester are like the best tanks in Overwatch League for sure. I have no doubt that he would be on a league team. He mentioned that he wanted to go back and play with an all Korean roster because I think that he was having some issues with, I would assume, coaching staff, maybe some players. I wouldn't assume he had issue with players, but maybe with like how coaching staff and everything was done and how they did things internally on the Gladiators. So, he mentioned like, yeah, I want to go on an all Korean roster. So that's either New York, Spitfire, us, or Soul Dynasty. And I'm pretty sure he's not going to come back to London since we kicked him off earlier in the season. And NYXL probably isn't going to change much. So that was kind of the only option. But it was kind of obvious, but I thought that was kind of interesting to note.
Yeah, it's unlucky that he went to someone who is obviously a very capable team, but obviously he's good enough, and it's sad that it didn't work out with us.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the event of the hour, as they say. One more thing. Sorry. There was news, I believe, last episode, which unfortunately didn't get uploaded, but we mentioned that Styko was sick and might not be able to make boot camp. Luckily, Styko is feeling super healthy again, and he is now in LA boot camping with the team. So doesn't seem like there's going to be any monkey wrenches thrown in, at least for our major preparation. Speaking of what happens after the major, we'll get that when we get to it. But anyway, Frozen, let's move on to League of Legends because we got that sweet buy coming in. We crushed the competition last weekend, and oh my gosh, it felt so good.
Yeah, I guess a lot has happened since our last episode, so we won't like run down last week, not the past couple days, Matt, and not the last week of League of Legends, but the week before. But we will kind of talk about I guess the overall trajectory, like what the actual fuck. I posted the only solo episode I've ever done. I posted it about trying to walk everybody off the cliff of wanting to abandon Cloud9 because of how shitty everything was going. And ever since then, like, this team has been on a rampage.
Yeah, it's honestly been kind of scary to see this team go from like last place to really like they were at last place and then they dropped a game the weekend Blabber was starting, and then after that, I believe they went undefeated basically, and they just swept everybody. So it's crazy to see just how much like Reaper and the team have turned it around. And I've read interviews where basically Reaper was like, "Oh yeah, I've had to just completely change my coaching style and basically work from the ground up again, and and work on the team." But I think it was all for the better. I know a lot of people were upset about the benchings. I believe I've said in the past that I thought that the benchings were necessary, especially considering what happened in spring, which a lot of people were kind of erasing, and everyone was, whenever you mention, everyone gets all upset about it. But like everyone on C9 in the spring was playing like crap in the second half of the split. Big changes were kind of needed to be made, and I think the benching definitely shocked Jensen and Sneaky. It put a shock to their system, and they were able to just refocus and completely fix a lot of their issues in their play. I think also subbing in Zazel for Smoothie was helpful. I think how Zazel communicates and how the team operates with Zazel looks a lot better than under Smoothie. I think Smoothie's play just kind of dipped, and we can definitely see that with how Echo Fox operates now. How Echo Fox kind of plays looks a lot similar to how Cloud9 played sometimes. So I think Zazel has just improved dramatically. Blabber looks amazing in our jungle, and he provides a lot of decisiveness and aggressiveness that we didn't really have in the past. And I think also having Sven and Golden Glue as kind of backups also helps, as we have more champion pools and strategic options that we can use from time to time. But everyone is just playing so much better, and it's just really great to see.
Yeah, I was trying to think when I was driving home, like how I wanted to try and compare we kind of were playing to how we are playing now. And like the best example I could think of was with a European soccer. I maybe not a lot of people are fans here of European soccer, but like I kind of think on like the spectrum of like how some teams play super passively, like their styles kind of passively, like say TSM, but then there's other teams who aren't scared to throw people forward and go for the juggler to try and score some goals. So how I was kind of thinking about it was like how each side of the map would, I guess, kind of be almost like a half of like a soccer field or a soccer pitch, and like the rotations are kind of the ball moving around the field. And like if you're a fan of soccer, I'll try not to bore you guys, but I kind of think like the extreme of Pep Guardiola's Barcelona would kind of be like TSM and like their most like generic like slow ass tempo where they kind of just bore you to death and just win. And then I kind of think a lot about how this Cloud9 side is playing a lot like Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool team, who I'm biased as hell, but like they have like this aura about them and like this like feeling about them that even if they're slow or falling behind in some ways, like they're going to find that one opportunity to find themselves back in the game and go for the jugular. And I I think that some of the substitutions and the coaching have made a really big difference on that, because we look like we're taking some like big opportunities that we wouldn't have done the last 5 weeks of last split, or even 5 weeks, like maybe 6 weeks ago go this split, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I think the team is definitely trying to they're taking some more risks than they normally would have, and I think that's partially thanks to franchising. That's kind of debatable, but how the team is playing and how the team is sort of drafting everything, it looks like they're trying to really figure out their limits and try to push themselves with each match. Like the draft in the FlyQuest game, for example, that was insane that they were able to not only flex the Camille pick, but the Zillion pick and completely fool FlyQuest in what FlyQuest C9 was doing. Like you think like, okay, we're gonna give Jensen the Zillion, Licorice is gonna get Camille, and then we'll put Blabber on like some kind of carry jungler, and so they waste all this time doing bans and stuff, and then it's like, oh wait, Zillion's gonna be played by Zazel, Blabber takes the Camille, and Jensen gets LeBlanc, one of his best champions, for free, without having to worry about it. It was, I mean, that's like some 3D chess going on there.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with how they've been taking advantage of a red side. I think it just goes to show that the current state of the game, that like if you get a red side, like you can have a formidable team. Um, I I know I've heard a lot from China about how teams are drafting super strongly on the red side, and it's not something that we've really seen in NA yet. And unfortunately, like playoffs are coming up, so teams are going to be working super hard to perfect their drafts. So maybe we won't be able to find those opportunities. But I've been impressed with how we've used the red side pick and bans, and I think that even on blue side, like there are enough almost required bans that we could even slide through a playoff game or two, picking like the Zillion and Kindred comp again, and I wouldn't be surprised to see someone try and tempt that out of us.
Yeah, I think I guess we can jump right into the playoffs, but I think that C9 is in a really great spot right now because they're displaying through these past few weeks, ever since we were on this win streak started or whatever. The team has displayed a lot of flexibility through a lot of different strategies and champions. This means that it's going to be really hard to kind of outdraft us, as well as it will be difficult to try to play around us because Blabber has shown how he played really well on Trundle in the 100 Thieves game. That was something that I was really nervous about because it isn't his usual sort of champion. Trundle doesn't have a lot of safety nets around it. Trundle is, he can kind of move around through that little ice field that he makes. He has the pillars to kind of slow down any advances, but if the teams can get around that, you're kind of caught. But he showed a lot of really great play on the Trundle. His early game was a little slowed down, but overall, he can play bruisers and stuff, I think, just as well as carry champions like Kindred or others. So I think we're going to be in a really good spot. The bye allows us to kind of study up on potential opponents, look at what they're doing with the meta, and see who we might be having to go up against and prepare for that. The issue will probably be who we end up playing because they, for some reason, changed the rule. Instead of it being dynamic seeding, like it should be, they said, okay, first seed gets to pick their opponent, and the second seed gets the remainder. Which, to me, doesn't make sense, because, I don't know, I think that's just kind of stupid, and I think that gives the first seed way too much of an advantage, because you can screw over the second seed harder than just dynamic seeding sometimes. Like say, for instance, TSM is probably going to beat, who do they play, 100 Thieves? Or is it Echo Fox?
I think it's Echo Fox.
Regardless. So say TSM beats Echo Fox, which TSM playoff buff, there's a good chance they will. Team Liquid probably doesn't want to face TSM because it's TSM. Dirksen cranks up his play to 11 during the playoffs. He is able to rally his team and make them play like 10 times better than they honestly should be. And it's, as a brief aside, as soon as Bjergsen leaves TSM, that team's probably done, because I don't think they're ever going to find a player, and their system is all based around Bjergsen. And once he leaves, they have to just start from scratch. It'll be a whole thing. But so TL probably not going to play TSM, so that means we're going to have to play them in the semifinals. TSM has been our kryptonite in playoffs for forever, basically. So that's, I feel that's a little unfair that they can kind of say like, oh, well, historically you haven't been good against TSM in the playoffs. TSM is always sort of beefed up during the playoffs. We're going to give you kind of your weakness, and we'll pick the easier team. We'll have a fast track to the finals, and then the second seed kind of has to struggle and maybe potentially lose. And I just don't like that system.
While I get your concern, like the alternative to giving up TSM is getting third place 100 Thieves, who have been pretty hot outside of a match or two.
I am actually not that bothered by 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves looked fairly beatable, especially without Meteos. I think they're really struggling strategically without Meteos, because Meteos is really smart, and I think he helped a lot with the shot calling, especially on objectives. With Onda, I think the team really struggles. Ryu and Someday seem to be having a lot more hot and cold days, and Afro, I think there might even be like a disconnect between Afro and the rest of the team, because Afro wants to do something, and either the team follows up and that's not the right play, or the team wants to do something else and Afro does something, and it kind of jumbles things. So I think 100 Thieves I would prefer to get 100 Thieves over TSM, because they seem like the much more beatable team.
Yeah, and I'm trying to look back at the last couple weeks to see who's hotter. It looks like TSM is hotter. If it came down to it, I'm not entirely sure who I would rather play against. I think both teams are very capable. And honestly, I feel like we would probably be, or the other team that we played against would probably be the favorites, like barely in betting odds. So I I guess it's going to come down to what Team Liquid feels they're more prepared to beat. If Doublelift has anything to say, I bet he would probably want to play TSM and knock them out himself. But I guess we'll just have to see how this week ends up going.
That's actually a good point. That's really interesting. Um, I would actually love to see sort of what sort of Doublelift's pride, how that takes into account, because I think as you bring that up, I could definitely see him saying like, no, I want to smash TSM and prove that I'm the better player. Especially, I mean, it should be free at least in terms of Doublelift's lane, because Ven and Mithy, they do not look good. I've never been a fan of them. They never looked like that great of a duo. Even on G2, it looks like they had a lot of problems because Mithy would get like super tilted and he would just not do stuff. Or if the game isn't going, ideally Sven would get like just really scared and he would not try to really be bold and try to make plays to salvage the game. And he would just really turtle up and kind of start to fade away into obscurity that game in a game. So, you know, Double Up has good lane phase. He smashes TSM bot lane, then it's basically all up to Bjergsen at that point. But we're kind of getting off topic.
Yeah. I guess I guess we don't have to talk about quarterfinals all that much, but yeah, we don't.
We can do quick predictions to see like who do you think would win.
Yeah, that works.
So who plays who?
On Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's Echo Fox versus TSM. It looks like Echo Fox gets the side choice. Let me confirm that based on the rankings. Echo Fox gets side choice against TSM, and then 100 Thieves gets side choice against FlyQuest.
Okay. I think TSM will beat Echo Fox. Echo Fox has been looking hot and cold, and it looks like they still have issues that they need to kind of iron out. I think the FlyQuest 100 Thieves one will be very interesting because how I see it, basically like 3 through 6 has a lot of parity, and like they can kind of beat each other, and they're kind of playing at the same level. I think that C9 and then Team Liquid are just kind of a bit higher, but it'll be really interesting to see like FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves, because I think they're both like super evenly matched, and it'll be interesting to see how they go about playing their games. 100 Thieves should win on experience. FlyQuest should win through sort of how they've been able to win their games previously.
Yeah, I think it comes down to game plan for the FlyQuest 100 Thieves series. If they're able to play to their strengths, aka split pushing, then I think that they will have a very real chance of winning. But I think that 100 Thieves is probably a little too good and a little too experienced. And I'm not a huge fan of Santorin or JJ, so I would probably
it seems like
bet on 100 Thieves. Sorry, go.
No, I was gonna say it seems like Saint Vicious and whoever their other coach is, it just seems like FlyQuest is like maybe a bit easier to fool in the draft, because like what we did with FlyQuest when we played them, I know, like, that was like a really tricky gambit that C9 pulled, but look what happened. Like, they flexed two positions, and FlyQuest's game plan just immediately falls apart. So, I think probably, haha, being the smarter coach, um, I think that he can probably do some tricks to kind of mess with FlyQuest more, since I do think he is probably the smarter, more experienced coach and whatnot. So yeah,
Yeah, as good as I think FlyQuest has been playing, yeah, I'm on the 100 Thieves train. On the other game, uh, I would probably bet on TSM. I think Echo Fox has kind of been floundering towards the end of the split, so and TSM has kind of been on the up and up, and that playoff buff that I don't like to admit is a real thing. So I am going to have to guess the semifinal matchups are going to be, if I were going to guess on what's going to happen, is Team Liquid versus TSM and Cloud9 versus Echo, or not Echo Fox, Cloud9 versus 100 Thieves. That's what I think is going to happen.
I think I could see that. Yeah, I don't want to call what'll happen for semifinals yet, or if C9 can do stuff. I want to see what quarterfinals looks like. I want to take this a step at a time, and I think that that's the approach for the team, and that's been working. It'll be interesting to see how the teams adapt to best of three, which I honestly hate. As much as best of ones makes it easier to watch, LCS, it completely messes with how teams play, because now it's not, okay, we won the game, next match. It's, okay, we've shown one strategy. Now the team that you're playing against has a chance to counter whatever strategy you're formulating next, and can potentially take it to a third game and eventually beat you. So there's an element of adaptation that's just been missing, and I honestly just hate it. But we'll have to see. I have nothing else to say.
Yeah, I guess I don't have anything else to add either.
Also, I think my supper is ready, so I don't want that to get too cold.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Hit us up at C9 Bodied on Twitter, or bodiedfancast@gmail.com. If you have any questions or anything, like, want to see, what we're up to, or anything like that, just send us something. We'll acknowledge you on the show, or try to hit you up on Twitter whenever we can. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.